Hi, everyone. Thank you again for joining us today. It is our pleasure to spend a little bit of time with you this afternoon, just giving you a little bit of an update on where we are with our restart planning. You will also have the opportunity to hear from two of our incredible alumni, Omar and King, and that is by far going to be the best part of this webinar, so we can't wait to get to that. For all of you who have questions, if we get time at the end of the webinar today, we will try and answer as many questions as possible. You can use the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen to submit questions throughout the webinar today, and we will be able to see those. As we get started today, I actually just wanted to spend a couple minutes sharing with you why I am in this work and why 20 years later, I am proud and continue to be proud to be a KIPPster. You see, my dad came to this country on a scholarship. Both my parents are immigrants, and my dad earned this scholarship from someone we actually don't know, who paid for my dad to fly, actually take a boat, not even fly, across the world to go to school, to go to university. And that scholarship, that opportunity changed my family's trajectory. It allowed my dad and my family to have a better life. And so education has always been a top priority in my family. And it's why 20 years later, I am just as committed to our mission at KIPP and our vision than the day I started teaching back in 1998 here in Houston as a Teach for America Corps member. So today, as we think about our mission and our vision and our values, those statements and those values continue to drive us in our COVID-19 response and in the way that we make decisions about educating our children every single day. So I want to share with you a little bit about what COVID has meant to us. In the spring, there were, we obviously had to shift gears completely in the matter of a week and stand up an entire new system to educate children virtually, which we had never done to that extent before. And so thankfully, we were able to stand up that system in a week, and we were able to do things for our children, our KIPPsters, with two basic principles in mind. One, that we should care for our KIPPsters and our own staff, our team and family first. And that was the most important thing we could do, is to show care and love and help our KIPPsters, their families, and our team and family. And second, we knew that learning had to continue, that for our KIPPsters, there was not an option for learning to stop or halt or slow down. And so with those two big thoughts in mind, we persisted with purpose in the spring. And we were able to actually raise $1.3 million for our COVID-19 and Beyond Fund that allowed us to provide direct assistance to our families in the form of gift cards initially, that would help our families just put food on the table, pay basic bills. So far to date, we've actually administered over $600,000 in electronic gift cards directly to our families, and we are getting ready to go ahead and disperse the second half of our funds so that we can continue to help families as this pandemic continues and continues. To date, we've served over 500,000 meals to our KIPPsters, our families, and children in the community where our schools are located who don't attend KIPP. And so we've opened our campuses, opened our doors to serve these meals over the spring and throughout the summer, and continuing to do the same in the fall. And for families who couldn't come to our campuses to pick up meals, we've actually used our school buses to go into neighborhoods to drop off meals to our families' doorsteps so that they can have nutritious meals every single day, because we know that this time is incredibly challenging for many, many, many of our families who've experienced health challenges and who have lost their jobs or experienced a reduction in income. In the spring, we also dispersed our entire internal supply of laptops to our KIPPsters. And so we distributed 13,000 laptops to our KIPPsters in the spring. We also distributed internet hotspots to those children who didn't have internet access, who weren't able to access some of the free platforms out there or low-cost platforms. And we are getting ready to distribute another 13,000 laptops to our KIPPsters this fall. And so that's what we did in the spring. Looking ahead to the fall, we have, as we navigate this environment, we know that it is fast changing. I mean, literally, we rolled out a plan on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, the Texas Education Agency came up with new mandates and guidelines. And so this is a very fast changing environment, and we are doing the best we can to provide both information, data, and stability to our KIPPsters and their families so that they can plan for what the fall is going to look like. We are making our restart school decisions centered on 3 guiding principles. One is to keep our big and little KIPPsters, what we call our children, our staff and our children. So big KIPPsters are our staff, little children are our KIPPsters, our little ones. We are making decisions first with safety in mind to keep our big and little KIPPsters safe. Our second guiding principle is to create equitable, joyful, academically excellent learning experiences for every single one of our KIPPsters in a way that is differentiated for their needs. And third, our last guiding principle is to take care of our team and family, to put care and love first when we start conversations, when we start classroom lessons, and make sure that our children's socio-emotional needs are cared for in this very, very tough time for them. We have made the decision that all KIPP Texas public schools will start the school year 100% virtually to keep our children and our staff safe. We will start classes on Monday, August 24th, all of us across all 4 of our cities. And then we will start in-person learning for those families who choose to come back in person. We'll still offer a virtual option, but for those families who choose to come back in person, we'll start phasing in-person learning slowly, kind of grade by grade, class by class on October 12th. And so that's our plan to persist with purpose through this pandemic that none of us have ever faced before. And certainly in my 20 years at KIPP, this is the most challenging time that we have ever experienced in our history. And I think I could say safely that that's true for my peers at our local school districts and local charter management organizations as well. Speaking with Persisting with Purpose, it's actually now my pleasure to introduce you to Ann Scott, our Chief Development Officer, who will lead us in conversation with 2 of our class of 2020 alumni who are absolutely incredible. So I'm going to stop talking so that you can hear from King and from Omar, who are going to share their stories with you. So Ann, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Awesome. I'm really excited to be able to share our alumni stories by asking them and posing some questions to them. But first, I'll just give a little bit of an introduction to myself. My name is Ann Scott. I'm the Chief Development Officer for KIPP Texas, and I'm so thrilled to be a part of our team and family. Like Seba, I came to education through Teach for America more than 20 years ago. And that experience really shaped all of my professional choices going forward because my students stayed with me. They had the absolute capability to achieve on an absolute scale. And I know that's true for all of our KIPPsters. So I'm so proud to be a part of this team and family where we provide the opportunities for our students to achieve and to pursue whatever the path that they choose, both college, career, and beyond. So I'm really excited, again, King and Omar, to introduce you. And before we get to the really tough questions, I'd love it if you would just tell us your name, where you studied at KIPP, how long you've been a KIPPster, and where you will attend college in the fall. Omar, let's start with you.
Yeah, of course. So hi, my name is Omar Katana. I am now graduated alum from KIPP Austin Brave High School, located here in Austin, Texas. And I actually joined KIPP as part of its founding class back in middle school with the school KIPP Austin Vista. This fall, I am planning to attend the University of Richmond in Virginia, where right now I plan to major in psychology and minor in both French and philosophy, but who knows, that might change once I start. a big reason why I chose the University of Richmond is because after living my whole life here in Texas, I just think I'm ready to leave the nest and embark on a new adventure.
King, what about you?
Oh, hello guys. My name is King Northington, and I've been a part of the KIPP team and family for the past 8 years. I transferred to KIPP in the 5th grade, and I still remember my first summer at-home visit. My teacher came, introduced herself, and told me what to expect at KIPP. I remember thinking, there's no way she'd remember my name. I had my doubts, and then on the first day of school, she approached me, called out to my name in a group of boys, and shook my hand and told me that she was really looking forward to the school year with me. And I remember it was just like this feeling, that KIPP team and family feeling that they talked about in the home visit. And I liked it. And I liked it so much that I stayed. And 8 years later, I'm proud to say that I am an alum of KIPP Sunnyside High School. This fall, I will be attending Prairie View A&M University as a Management Information Systems major. Currently, due to COVID, my fall classes will probably look like a combination of online and in-person classes. Currently, I'm taking 2 summer online courses in order to both boost my GPA and give me an early experience of what classes will be like.
Well, I'm telling you, both of your universities have incredible assets in the two of you, and I can't wait to hear how your experiences go this fall. Seba shared a little bit about how COVID-19 has impacted our organization, and we all know, all of us who are listening here today know that COVID-19 has dramatically altered our world. We love to personalize this for folks to understand from your perspective as graduating seniors and now alum of KIPP Texas. How has the pandemic affected you, and how does it influence your plans for the future? King, let's start with you.
Yeah, COVID has really affected my ability to afford college. So about 2 years ago, my mother began making enough money to disqualify us from receiving financial aid. Financial aid is, it's found out by seeing what your parents' taxes were 2 years prior to applying to your school. However, one thing it didn't consider was that in the past 2 years, my mother had been laid off twice. Once was last year for about 4 months, and the second time started this year in February. And due to COVID, she still is unemployed. So unfortunately, my mother has 4 children. She has lots of bills to pay and another long list of expenses. But this wasn't really considered when finding out what my financial aid was going to be like. I have been told that next year, my financial aid would reflect my mother's past 2 payoffs, but that's a whole year of college expenses later. But hope wasn't lost though. All senior year, I applied to scholarships. However, due to COVID, communication between the scholarship applicants and the organizations became extremely delayed. I'm here just 5 weeks early from starting up school, and I've only heard from a very small list of scholarships. However, this is why I'm grateful to Prairie View. Prairie View was one of the only schools that was willing to work with me in my time of financial circumstance change. They sort of made me feel like I was a part of their team. They were able to look at me in my time of need and, didn't cast me out to the side, but, sat down and they're still in the process of helping me be able to attend their school. And it sort of gave me that same feeling I got when coming to KIPP. And so for that reason, I've decided to attend Prairie View A&M University this fall.
Omar, what about you? How has COVID-19 and this whole global pandemic impacted your life?
Yeah, so when it all started, I felt that I had gotten an early summer. Initially, I had so much time in the palm of my hands that it ironically felt that I was actually in a time of peace. But unfortunately, 2020 is actually anything but peaceful. I believe it was around late March to early April when I was forced to experience the stresses of becoming an adult. My mom, who had previously cleaned houses for a living, couldn't continue doing so just because, first, she had to look out for her well-being, and second, there wasn't much business going about. As a response to my mother not being able to continue making money, I had to find another job to support my family. So I began working at Walmart full-time in order to meet those financial demands. I became the sole breadwinner for my family because, as it turns out, just because there's a pandemic doesn't mean bills have to stop coming. And on top of all of this, I had to find another way to plan and save for college because I had to use my college savings to get us through the first month. Keep in mind that this is all going down while I'm still trying to be a high school student. I had to adapt to Google Classroom lessons and prepare for my AP test. All this was really exhausting. I couldn't stand the feeling that I wasn't doing my best anymore. I've built up years of relationships with my teachers, and I respect them. So when I would see the list of red missing schoolwork, it really discouraged me, and I felt that I was letting them down. And as for the future, the pandemic does make things very uncertain. I have some doubts, like if I leave, will my family be okay? And is college really worth it during COVID when things may become online? But I've decided like I have to do this. I have dreams and goals that are beyond just working at Walmart. And although I really love and appreciate my coworkers, yes, I just can't not afford to go to college. And I really can't afford to just settle down for my current environment.
Well, one of the things that we're going to talk about later and hear from Seba is just what our organizational response has been, not only to COVID, but our current environment in terms of political and social unrest. And one of the things that our schools focus on, of course, is academic excellence, but we also want to empower our students to utilize their voice to create a more inclusive and equitable society. So what lessons have you learned from your experiences or experiences that you've had at KIPP that have helped you to be a champion for equity? King, let's start with you.
Yeah, the first experience I can think of with KIPP is probably going to be the creation of the Students for Social Justice. During my 2017-2018 school year, there were a series of school shootings, such as the Parkland High School shooting. And so we felt like the country was able to understand what was going on at the events, but not necessarily how it affected the students. And so in light of this, we created the Students for Social Justice Organization, or SSJ. I remember this experience was so just like surprising because we received a lot of support from KIPP. I mean, the program was co-founded by our school's history teacher, Mr. Ewell, but the support didn't end there. Students and teachers alike submitted short stories, poems, and even art pieces to show their support. When first making this, we never expected the turnout that we got. We assumed maybe it'd be a small group. Some may overlook it, some may not. But we received all this help from everyone, students and teachers alike. Sometimes we get so caught up feeling that the faculty members at the school are authority figures. So we feel like we're just in two different worlds, but we're all basically the same people, all fighting for the exact same thing. And it was because of the support we were able to get the attention of Mayor Sylvester Turner. We were able to get the attention of the Channel 13 News and even got our own piece in the Houston Chronicle. However, all this couldn't have happened without KIPP's support. Before walking into that experience, I sort of felt like my voice was a whisper amongst everyone else's inside of the worlds. However, through the support, I see that when whispers come together, they can turn into a voice that no one can ignore.
Well, Omar, what about you? How has KIPP and being a student at KIPP really helped you to elevate your voice and become a champion for equity?
Sorry, well, I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, my bad.
That's okay. I'm just asking you the same question that King responded to. As a student at KIPP, how have you learned to elevate your voice and be a champion for equity?
Champion for equity. Yeah, so really my opportunity came through the riots that started happening here in Austin. I used to always think about wanting to go to a protest because it's always the right thing to do. And while I was there, it was really fascinating to see like everybody's like flyers and everybody's like signs. And well, although I initially didn't start, like, I was really a rookie when it came to all this, and I kept doing it throughout the week. And it's really amazing to see that, there's like everybody in the world who are just fighting for Black Lives Matter and other like for the LGBTQ community. It's wonderful to be part of that. And I think just being a witness to it and just like taking part of it is just gonna be something like people should do to drive. And well, yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much for sharing. Seba, I'm going to turn it back over to you to talk a little bit about KIPP's organizational response. and to wrap us up.
Absolutely. Thank you, Anne. And thank you, Omar and King, for sharing your stories and experiences with all of us today. We are so proud of both of you. I mean, you are such incredible role models. You have shown so much courage, so much grit, and so much care in your time at KIPP, and now especially during COVID. And I just want you to know that we are all of the big KIPPsters, we are standing with you, and we are so confident that you will be successful in college and career and beyond, and give back to others in your lives. So thank you. As I reflect on Omar and King's experiences, there is no doubt in my mind that they have worked incredibly hard to achieve. And yet what is also so clear to me is that their lives and the lives of our KIPPsters are so much more complex than what a slogan can capture. Recently, the KIPP Foundation decided to retire the 25-year-old slogan, "Work hard, be nice." And there have been a lot of mixed emotions and feelings and thoughts about that. I want you to know that regardless of a slogan, our mission remains the same. Our commitment to working hard and being kind remains the same. And our acknowledgement that our KIPPsters' lives and their ability to achieve is so much more complex than what is captured in a simplified slogan is ever more important now as we live through racial tension and racial inequity in our country. At KIPP Texas, our mission and our values remain our guidepost. In fact, our values incorporate working hard and being nice. Almost 2 years ago, right after we created KIPP Texas, we gathered over 1,000 stakeholders from across all 4 of our cities: alumni, current KIPPsters, parents, staff members, board members, community members, to come together and really share with us what they thought was most important about KIPP and KIPP Texas specifically. And that is how we landed on our values. And we did this across the country at KIPP to land on our new mission statement. And we really believe that it beautifully, these statements, these values beautifully capture who we are, what our essence is at KIPP, and how we want to behave. As part of our commitment as an organization to being anti-racist and creating equitable learning experiences for all of our KIPPsters, we're actually in the process, as we speak today, of auditing and improving several of our practices, including our hiring practices, to make sure that our new hires represent the communities in which our kids, our KIPPsters, are growing up. We're auditing our discipline practices to make sure that they're fair and equitable, and we'll disrupt our own discipline practices where we need to and create better ones, as we've already started to do over the last several years, as we have moved to more of a community circle model and more of an inclusive model of discipline. We're also auditing our curriculum to make sure that it's inclusive of our KIPPsters and honors their beautiful and powerful heritage. And so these are the things that we're doing as a start to become an anti-racist organization. And as part of being anti-racist, as part of lifting up our KIPPsters, we firmly believe that it is our job to create joyful and academically excellent schools that develop in our KIPPsters the skills and confidence so that they can lead lives of choice. They can choose their path, college, career, and beyond. Because we know that our KIPPsters, like Omar and like King, are going to continue to do amazing things in their lives, and they are, in fact, the leaders of tomorrow. And it is our privilege to work with them while they're children, and then to continue to work with them when they are our alumni. And look, we couldn't do this without all of you. We couldn't do this without your care and support. And so on behalf of all of us KIPPsters, thank you. Thank you for your faith, and thank you for your belief in us. We really, really don't take it lightly. So now, KIPP style, we're gonna actually have some time for questions and answers. and we're going to open it up. But rather than me just reading out the questions and answering them, we're going to do this in a KIPP way. And so Omar and King, can you all please ask me the questions? And I will do my best to answer them. And for all of you, as a reminder, if you would like to ask a question, just chat it in to the Q&A. It's a little button at the bottom of your screen, and we will be able to get to your question, hopefully. Thank you. Omar and King, back to you.
Yeah, so the first question, Ms. Ali, is some folks would like to know the digital connectivity status of our student population.
Yeah, you know, this has really been a struggle for our KIPPsters and our families. When we first surveyed our families last spring to understand their access to technology and their internet connectivity, what we learned is about 30% of our families lacked internet access. So that number was a little bit smaller than we thought it would be, but still very, very, it was still bigger than we needed it to be, right? Obviously. And so we actually invested in a few things. One, we really connected with different internet companies to see what deals they could possibly offer our kids. And several internet companies for 3 months, 4 months were offering, you know, either free internet and then a low cost internet option of $9.99 a month or $10 a month after that. So a lot of our families actually were able to use that service and get internet connectivity that way. And then what we also realized is that for some of our families, that wasn't going to be a good option because either it was not available in their neighborhood, their area, or that there were so many stipulations attached to those like low cost internet offers that it wasn't going to work with for them. And so we went ahead and purchased mobile hotspots. And so we have distributed a few thousand mobile hotspots and also have a stock for the fall because we anticipate that we'll distribute a few more thousand hotspots this fall. They're expensive. They're costly, but it is well worth it to get our kids the connectivity they need to be able to do synchronous learning, which means they are directly interacting with the teacher online, which we think at KIPP is the #1 priority for virtual learning, as well as asynchronous learning where they will do assignments and you know, maybe connect with the teacher on the phone, but not be in a classroom at that time. That is a secondary way of learning and instructing for us at KIPP. So when we think about this fall, you know, internet connectivity will continue to be a really big priority for us as we'll be getting those 13,000 additional laptops in the hands of our KIPPsters.
Thank you, Ms. Ali. The next question is, what is the incidence of COVID among our students and families?
That's a good question, King. Thank you. You know, while I don't have the exact numbers of incidents among our population of students, and we have actually, because of you know, HIPAA guidelines and things, we have not been able to ask our families to, during the summer or when we were out of school in the spring, tell us whether they had COVID or not. However, what we do know is that qualitatively, our families are very hard hit with COVID. A lot of our families live in multi-generational households. And so for them, the incidence of COVID in, you know, spreading through a house and certainly with elders in their family who live with them is very, very hard. And we know that both Latinx, the Latinx population and the African-American population in our state and around our country are more susceptible to COVID, and we don't quite understand why, or I should say not we, scientists don't quite understand why, but we do know that those two populations have a higher incidence of COVID and a higher death rate from COVID. And so those are definitely real challenges for our families.
Just a follow-up question. We also have a question about our team and family. How are our teachers and the rest of KIPP staff members feeling about going back to school? And how do our teachers feel about going back to the classroom in person?
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one, right? I mean, when we decided to stop school in the spring, that was a really, really tough decision to make. But starting school in the fall is even a tougher decision because we are putting people in the face of the virus. And so these are really tough decisions. And so what we did is we surveyed all of our staff in the summer, and we asked them this question: how do you feel about coming back to school in person in the fall? And at that point, 80% of our families said that 80% of our staff indicated that they wanted to come back in the fall. Now, since then, Texas has experienced a pretty big spike in COVID cases. And so we anticipate that that number has changed. And so we just did another staff exception process where we said to our staff members, if you have a health challenge or someone you live with in your household has a health challenge, and we listed out from the CDC what the health challenges were, what the categories were, you may file a staff exception for an exception to not come back in person when we come back in the fall. And then we also asked our staff, if you feel scared to come back, if you are fearful of coming back in the fall in person, please fill out this form as well and let us know. And so far, what we found is about 200 teachers have, of about our 2,000 teachers, have said that they either cannot come back in the fall because of a health challenge for themselves or someone in their household, or they are fearful of coming back. And so that's a real challenge for us that we are actively trying to figure out. I mean, we anticipate that, we have just, again, surveyed our families again, and about 70% of our families are at this point today, and that may change a month from now, but are opting for, if they had the choice, in-person instruction in the fall versus I'm sorry, let me stop. They are opting for virtual instruction in the fall instead of in-person. About 30% are opting for in-person instruction in the fall at this point. And again, those numbers may change, but we may have a real challenge with the teacher shortage if more of our families decide to come back in person, and yet we have 200 teachers who, for health reasons, cannot come back to school. And so that is a real challenge that we are trying to work through right now, and don't have good solutions for right now.
That was really good, Ms. Ali. The next question is, what impact do you think the pandemic may have on growth and expansion plans? Also, how are you approaching this and this way of thinking?
Thank you. I mean, again, a really excellent question. I mean, we are planning to open 5 schools this summer, and we are moving ahead with those openings. We already have children enrolled at all of those schools, and delaying those openings now would not be a good option for those families and those KIPPsters. And so we are moving ahead with opening 2 schools in Austin, KIPP Paseo Primary and KIPP Paseo Prep. We're moving ahead with opening 2 schools in Houston, KIPP Mosaic Primary and KIPP Mosaic Academy, which is a secondary school. And then we're also opening KIPP East End High School in Houston for our existing KIPPsters. In the following year, we have plans to open a high school in Dallas and open a high school in Houston for existing KIPPsters. And at this point, we have not stopped those plans. We are continuing to evaluate and make sure that we can handle that, adding those 2 schools with the COVID situation. But at this point, we are continuing to move ahead with those plans. And that is because our KIPPsters are depending on us. These are 2 high schools that will open for KIPP middle school students who are already with us, who are in 8th grade and waiting for their high school to start, or ready for their high school to start. And so we are continuing to forge ahead with those plans at this moment. And we are being really thoughtful about this fast changing environment as well, and cognizant that at some point we may need to revise those plans. For the next 5 years, our growth plan over the next 5 years, we have not shifted away from that growth plan. We believe it is really important to keep our promises to our existing KIPPsters and to be able to create opportunities for new KIPPsters. So we don't know what state funding will look like after this year, and it's possible that we may face a really big dip in state funding, and that we may be forced to alter our growth plans as a result. But at this point, where I sit today, we are continuing to forge ahead.
King and Omar, actually, there's a question that's come in for you. So someone asked, what are you most excited about when it comes to going to college? And also maybe what are you concerned about? What are you fearful about, nervous about? Would you all be willing to address that? King, let's start with you. What you're nervous about, what you're excited about.
So in terms of what I'm nervous about, I wouldn't necessarily say nervous about really anything. I feel like since 5th grade, we've had the to and through college, and we've been taught basically a lot of the different hardships that could come with going to college. So when it comes to what I'm nervous about, it's not really anything. It's more like I'm open arms to every experience and what I can learn from everything. So yeah, not 100% sure what I'd be nervous about, but for what I'm looking forward to, I've been locked up in the house for about the past 3 months. Whether it's been schooling or just being able to have some own self-reflection time, I am for sure ready to get out of the house, meet new people, and embark on my own adult experience.
Awesome. What about you, Omar?
So I'm actually, unlike King, I'm actually like very scared because I'm moving to another state, and I've never visited Virginia before. And so just moving on to like another place, it's gonna be really scary. And I'm also just kind of fearful because say things do turn online, I struggled with online courses, right? And I had my teachers to like back me up whenever I needed. They gave me like time to like relax, like focus on work, and then come back to school. We'll give you expand, we'll like extend your time. And but college might be a little different, and so I'm really scared of having to like face that struggle again and like trying to overcome it, because of course that's what I'm aiming for, just get past online classes. But what I'm excited for is that same fear about moving to another state. I just think that I know that I'm gonna meet a very distinct group of people that I might not have like talked to as much here in Texas, but when I do confront them, it's gonna be amazing. I know, and there's always gonna be some new person there that's gonna like change my life drastically, which I'm excited for.
Okay, now I have a question for all three of you. Seba, King, and Omar, we've talked a lot about COVID-19 and the current environment in our country, and would love to know, in the midst of all of this, what gives you hope in this season? Seba, I'd love to start with you.
Sure. For me, the grit and tenacity of our KIPPsters, and Omar and King are such exemplars of this. I mean, the things that they have had to figure out, the challenges that they have had to overcome in this season have been really big challenges for young men their age, right? And I think that they give me hope. They give me so much hope, and all of our KIPPsters give me hope, because despite the numerous challenges they face, they continue to show up every single day, ready to work, ready to achieve, and ready to problem solve and figure it out, and with optimism. And so that is what brings me hope in this very challenging season.
Omar, let's go to you. What gives you hope?
So what gives me hope is really just you guys, like anybody associated with KIPP, because it's a national network, and I get to meet students like King. I get to meet my teachers, like my advisor, and other KIPP members like you guys that really are just willing to put in like a helping hand, and I really appreciate that, just because like I used to be the type of person to want to resort last to being helped, but now that I've opened up, I'm really excited to meeting new KIPPsters around the country, and hopefully I'll meet a new KIPPster at Virginia. But yeah, that's what I'm just hoping for. That's what drives me home.
King, what gives you hope?
Yeah, for sure. For me, it'd probably be understanding that pain is only momentary. It's understanding that all questions can potentially have answers to them. And so in moments like these, where it seems like a lot of things are going wrong, I know that in the long run, it'll just improve us later on, whether it be students like me and Omar who are tasked with these online courses and, having to stay inside of our homes. It'll also build character within us so that if this issue does ever come again, we're prepared for it. In terms of KIPP, there are a lot of these issues that we're having, and you guys are solving them. So again, this will just be another way to just make everybody stronger all around.
All right, Seba, I will turn it over to you to close us out.
Well, thank you so much, Omar and King. Thank you for spending your time sharing your stories with us today. I know it's really nerve-wracking to speak with in front of so many people and online, and you all did such a beautiful job. To all of you who have joined us today, our friends, our supporters, thank you. Thank you for learning about our restart plans, for coming to hear from King and Omar, and for your incredible support. During this time, we feel so fortunate to have you standing with us and with our KIPPsters. So we can't wait to see you in person one day soon. I can't wait to show you around our schools when we're actually back physically in school. But in the meantime, if you would like to pop in to one of our virtual classrooms, please reach out to us. We would love to have you pop into our classrooms virtually. So thank you, wishing all of you and your families good health. Take care, and thank you for joining us today.